Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we've got an interesting one we're going to be working on. It's an Avet reel. It's the MXJ 5.3 MC cast. And it turns fine, but, well, we've got a lever that's stuck. And, of course, you can't go into free spool with that. Not a very easy thing to go take fishing with you if you don't have a free spool and you don't have a drag. I understand this may have been a situation where they hooked onto a fish. They tried to change the lever drag here by adjusting it mid-fight with the line tight. And maybe we just pulled something out of alignment. I'm not sure what we did, but or what Hugo did. But we're going to take it apart. We're going to service it for him. We're going to find out what the cause of this issue is. Hopefully, no parts are required, and we can get this thing back out there fishing soon. Well, the whole idea behind Second Chance Tackle is to give reels a second chance, whether it's something like this where it's broken, or maybe it's just a reel that's been sitting on the sidelines for a while. Maybe it's gone unloved for a little time, and it just needs to be tuned up and put back into service. And in either case, the whole idea is to teach you how to do it yourself so that we can keep these reels fishing and out of landfills. Well, of course, this one probably wouldn't go into a landfill for this issue, but you get the idea. Some of the older stuff that we work on, not particularly valuable, not particularly collectible, but what it is an opportunity to keep those reels fishing. Well, we just removed the exterior part. That included the handle, the lockdown assembly. We took out the washer that went behind here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the side plate and lever so that we can get inside this reel, find out what's really going on here. All right. The thing I like to do when I'm working on these reels is to check to make sure all the pieces and parts are there. Those are. We can remove this. And as I said, it may simply be that this little adjuster button here is just not set properly. And that could have gotten pulled off the shaft or what have you. I'm not sure. But we're going to set it aside and we should be able to see. So it is something with the lock button, because now I'm in free spool and the handle is not turning. So something happened with that lockdown button, but we're going to do the full service on this one. So we're going to start by removing the 3 exterior side plate screws here. When I take them off, I like to lay them on my table. That way I know that they're all the same size. If they're not the same size, and I was just working on a newel reel where that was the case, I note where in the process the longer or the shorter or the thinner or the wider or whatever the variation is in the screw belongs. In this case, these 3 are the same. And when I remove them, I put them into a parts tray. I use a fast food container as my parts tray, and I use different corners for different pieces, and that helps me to keep that organized. These are the bump gaps, or bump stops. You don't need to remove those from the case. Here's your case. You have a case that has a main gear. This is your anti-reverse. There is no clutch in this one, or an instant anti-reverse. We'll show you how to get to this in a moment. But let's take off the inner workings of this. Make sure that we clean the reel. There's a little bit of dirt inside here, so we want to take care of that. We're going to use a paper towel to wipe off the old grease. And the only thing you have in the back of this reel is a slotted indentation for the back end of this axle shaft. This is your axle shaft here. And that axle shaft will sit in there. Actually, I can take it off right now. That's easy enough. The axle shaft sits in the back of the case like this, and that holds the axle shaft firm. And you need to do that because a lever drag is going to pull the spool or put pressure on the spool to engage your pressure plate with the drag washer. All right. Well, there's a series on the back end of your axle here that are little shim washers, and then you have a bearing. I'm going to spin the bearing, make sure that works fine. And these are open or shielded bearings. They will accept oil. So if I do oil bearings, I don't grease them. And that'll go in here once we mount the spool. Okay, that's your internal axle design. On the front end of this, we have a pressure plate. That has a rubber sealed bearing on it. I'll put a little bit of oil, just a drop. Chances are that that one will not, we had a ferrule fall out there. That one may or may not accept the oil, so I'm not going to put too much in there. All right, we have our pressure plate, and we have a little spring here, or not a spring, a washer. And then we have the second bearing. Okay, a little bit of oil onto that bearing. We can reseat that. And there's the washer. There's two washers there, one goes up top. We can take our assembly from underneath, bring that up. Probably should have done that first because I just knocked the bearing and the shield out. Bring that over. And our spring. And our washer. You just want to check this. This one's in good condition. It's not jammed or full of dirt or debris or anything. But if you had an issue, take a hard bristle brush and pull through on the drag washer. Now this drag washer is firm. It doesn't turn. This is what turns. So there's 4 ears here that are holding that drag washer into the structure. Clean off your pressure plate. Then we can put our pressure plate assembly back on. And now we can take this and merge that into the back end of the case. And just make sure that you don't have any line trapped in that spool like we do there. Okay, let's go over to the other side then and deal with the gearing. We want to remove the 2 screws that are holding the anti-reverse dog in place. Again, you want to make sure that they're the same size screws. Just from experience, I know these are. And then take a look at your plate. This is a good place to take pictures just in case you set the reel down or something. There's a couple of different things going on here. The shape of your extension arm that's going to control your anti-reverse dog. This plate is not symmetrical. It has a wider bottom to it. Just trying to bring that out. There we go. So you can see that the one side is wider than the other. So mark that at least in your mind. And now we have our dog. This has got a lot of old grease and dirt on it that needs to be cleaned, which is why you take the whole piece apart. This is your main axle shaft. You should be able to push that through now. And we have a lot of dirt in the case itself. And we have a bearing that's seems like it's a little stuck in here. So I'm going to just put a little bit of spray on that while we continue our efforts here. Clean the case, gears and the like. Okay, I'm just going to set this aside. I don't want this to get out of control here where you start losing pieces and parts. You want to note that there's 2 sections of this. This is the side that goes onto the back of the reel. This is the side that's the front. Remember that axle shaft is coming in from the other way. And now we'll clean off the dirt here. Wow, that's particularly tight grease. I'm wondering what that might be. That's one of the reasons why I wear a glove. I'm just never quite sure what it is that somebody's using inside of a reel. I only recommend that you use fishing reel greases and oils in the service of your reels, but every now and then something else winds up in here. So, sometimes it's just general household stuff. Sometimes people are using stuff for other sporting equipment like guns, sewing machine oils, things like that. If you don't know, it's best to protect yourself from it. Alright, and a cotton swab is providing the tension to get this stuff all cleaned up. Alright, we should be able to wipe that down now. Much better. Let's take a look at the teeth and the gears. We do want to pull through on that. I'm using that hard brush that we used before to pull through all of the teeth and make sure they're nice and clean. Okay, let's see if we can't work that pinning gear out now. There we go. All right. So it wasn't frozen in there. That's the good news. We'll do the same thing. We'll take a cotton swab. There may have been some dirt or something that was trapping it in there. That bushing, that bearing can go right back in the case. Again, it's got a rubber shield on it, so for the most part it's not going to let water in. Not going to let oil in either, but we can let it seep in there. Now I don't put this back into the bearing. I put this into the pressure plate. It's easier for me to mount it that way when it's time to reinstall. Alright, I'm just checking all of the pieces, making sure that that is clean. I'll put that in first. I'm going to put a little bit of grease onto the teeth of that. Gotta find my brush. Okay, mystery solved. I found my brush. It's hiding under my screwdriver. I'm going to use fishing reel grease. We're going to use Penn Precision Reel Grease for this. And again, I just want to get the grease onto the teeth of your pinion gear. And then we can set this assembly up. To reinstall this assembly, we've got this piece that comes in here, and it locks in. There's a square inset cut there. You want to wipe this down. This is your extension arm. And there's two sides on this extension arm. You have one side has got this up 90 degree. The other side's got a small hole in it. The small hole is what's going to attach it to this eccentric ring here. So that goes in, and then it goes under the other arm. And then with this, you need to make sure after you do that that the square is in the inset cut there. Then we have the small washer from behind. What we need to do now is get a little bit of grease onto the gear. And then this one always gets interesting because it can pop out every now and then when you're going to mount it. For that shaft likes to come through that little inner part there and push this out, and if you push it out you lose the inset square there. So I'm going to hold that tight as we bring it in. I'm going to bring that over just like that. one more piece to clean here, which is the anti-reverse dog. That's a single anti-reverse dog. I'll make sure we get that old sticky grease off. And then your beak on your dog is coming down. Two things to do here. You need to get the 90-degree point in. Looks like that. You'll see how you'll be reeling this way, and as you go to back it up, you can see how it pulls in and pulls out. Next up then is to put that tie down back on. And those two little screws. And again, if you're using a parts tray, you know exactly where to go for those. These are flathead Phillips screws. And just be careful when you're doing this that you don't disturb or push out that main shaft on the gear. Otherwise, you got to take it apart to reset it. Lessons learned. All right. Next up then, we want to bring our assembly over. You want to pull your anti-reverse dog up so that you're not affected by the reinsertion of this. Bring this over. And then you need to align your holes and the plate below here. And when you hear a nice click like that, generally you're in the area. There we go. There's 3 screws. They were all the same. I'm going to put the top one in. That should hold enough pressure on this that I should be able to start taking my finger off of the other. We've got 2 more here. Now, folks ask me when they send a reel in for service, should I take the line off of the reel? And generally the answer to that is you don't need to. I can work around it. You can see me doing that here. But when you send a reel in for annual service, you really should change out the line anyway. I'm noticing this has got monofilament on it. I'm not sure the age of that monofilament. The owner would know that. But it's always a good idea to change that at time of service, because that line stretches and it could become problematic. All right, let's take a quick spin on this. Yep, everything's doing what it should be doing there. Let's go put that handle back on, see if we can make this thing work the way it should now. When you're loading your handle on, you want to go to the neutral position. Then you want to take your adjuster here. It's a hex. You want to make sure that your hex gets seated. Then we can bring our adjuster knob over. And get that started. We should be in free spool now, and we are. And now we should start having some, yep, all right, we got it. All right, I'm noticing that the post is turning. So you want to get into free spool now. First strike, second strike, we're in good condition. All right, so whatever it was that they may have done to potentially injure this early on, it's been rectified. So we can go ahead and put the handle back on. Handle is next. Handle washer. nut cap. That's an 11 millimeter. And if I haven't mentioned it before, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, please leave those questions in the comment section. I will try to answer those for you. And, well, maybe you're working on a reel and you're stuck. I'll try to get you unstuck. I also want to encourage you to subscribe again. Subscribing doesn't cost you anything. It'll help you to identify the videos that I'm posting and whether you would like to watch them. And, it'll help me and my channel viewership and getting the YouTube exposure that, well, everybody seeks. Okay, 2 more little screws here. I don't know if this screwdriver will do it, but we'll see. Then we'll give it the final test. So this is an Avet lever drive fishing reel. Many of the lever drag fishing reels follow a similar pattern. It's a relatively simple design, in that, as I mentioned, that lever is going to push or pull the spool to connect that pressure plate to that drag washer. And in this case, we should give it a final test. It is the Avet MXJ 5.8 MC. I believe the MC is mag cast. We have a control over here. We had a magnet in the inside. This one's over on the early side. All right, we're in free spool. Doing as best we can with that little line clicking over here against the thing. I guess if we snipped that, we probably would have acquired a reel. Spin it. First strike. Turning, holding pretty good. Full gear. This one's ready to go fishing again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way and dedicating their life's work and career to public safety. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to wish everybody a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and our fishing reel, the Avet MXJ 5.8 MC. Thanks for watching.